Hello, I'm Nate, aka B-Tier Mutineer, and today I want to share with you my top 3 favorite quests from The Outer Worlds 2. This is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and it was super difficult to only choose 3 quests to highlight because I loved so many of them. This game has very high quality narrative design, though I do have to say I do love these 3 quests more than the others. I'll very likely make a follow-up video later on to talk about the other quests I greatly enjoyed that I left out of this, but until then, here are my top 3. Before we get into it, I'll take a moment to say a special thank you to my members. I appreciate all of you so much, and your support allows me to keep going. Joining as a member would help the channel a lot, but of course only do so if you want to and if you can afford it. I'm always grateful even if you just like the video if you enjoyed it, and maybe leave a comment. The first quest I want to talk about is actually the one you get right after the prologue, the Saboteur of Paradise. The reason I love this quest so much is that it's so open. You can get pretty much straight into the Vox Relay if you want to, or explore and find out extra information, get assistance in reaching the northern part of the island, obtain the double jump boots and the energy shield, which are both possible to use to get to the northern side without needing to go through the bridge. You really get to feel the freedom the game tries to offer you as much as possible at every turn, and it feels extremely satisfying to have so many paths forward. I also really like that this main quest is connected to many smaller optional quests, because it makes the story and world feel more cohesive. You may simply get the energy shield because you found the Automech Repair Center on your own and managed to talk your way in, or you could get the energy shield if you try to get Officer Carr's assistance to get to the Vox Relay Station. This second option requires you to sabotage the repair center, which also nets you the shield, but in this case it's connected to the main quest. Same thing if you decide to assist Minister Milverstreet, you get to meet Inez at the Ministry of Accuracy, then explore Westport and convince the people there to move to Fairfield, which is in fact a useful thing for the main quest since at the end of it you have to choose where the Vox Relay will crash between Fairfield and Westport, unless you have the option with a hack skill or the lucky trait to send it into space. Having Westport be empty makes the choice easier, but you only get this possibility if you sided with Milverstreet and Fairfield. It's just very good interconnected quest design, and I think that out of all of the main quests, this one is by far the best one in terms of how cohesive it feels with the region and its other quests. I'm assuming they spent a lot of time working on this first region, which is probably why it feels like the most polished one out of all. Not to say the other regions aren't good, but I think there's something special about the Saboteur of Paradise in terms of just how many ways to move through this quest and the region you have available. The information you get fed while you're on this quest is also given at a good pace without any unnecessarily long exposition or info dumping or what have you. The characters tell you what you need to know while also expressing aspects of who they are, their personality, their profession, what faction they belong to. I've heard that the writing style of The Outer Worlds 2 hasn't been to everyone's tastes, but honestly, I'm glad it hasn't been, because I personally love it, and I know I have fairly niche preferences when it comes to writing. In any case, I've enjoyed playing through this first big quest multiple times already, though to be fair, I also love making new characters and playing through the first half of the game with them. But in this case, it's not just that. I genuinely appreciate the quest design of the Saboteur of Paradise, both as a player and also as someone who loves to analyze writing and game design. So that's why this quest is my favorite overall. The second quest I enjoyed a ton is Discrete Mathematics, the one where you go to the Enray range to sabotage Dereza's plan to have her accomplice Victor craft and send her dangerous explosives that she'd use to blow up the peace talks between the Order and Auntie's Choice. While with the first quest I loved it for the narrative design and freedom, the Enray range is more of a dungeon, and I love it for the exploration and combat elements most of all. It's really cool to be introduced to the Enray scanner and have to use it during the quest due to having invisible enemies that can only be highlighted with a scanner, as well as various traps and switches and so on. It feels like a unique part of the game where your playstyle will change no matter what your build is. Whether you want to kill the cultists or just sneak around them, you still have to use the scanner, and it breaks what may have become a bit of a routine to give you something new to play with. I very much appreciate not getting all the gadgets in the first region, and that they kept the scanner for the second one. Not just because it adds novelty to the gameplay, but also because the scanner feels more advanced than activating the energy shield to protect you from damage or Xyranium, melting bodies with the dematerializer, or using the double jump boots. I also enjoy all the interactions you get to have with the people DeVries has been either friends with or collaborated with, because you get glimpses of her motivations behind her actions, which can be enough to not just go after her head because she blew up Horizon Point. I think her character in general is very interesting. As a villain for the first half of the game, she's very easy to want to take down, but she's also showing herself to be deeper than just a basic evil person who does things for their own benefit. From the very beginning, she expresses very clearly that she's doing what she thinks is the right thing to save the world, not destroy it. The only other villain in a video game I think I've appreciated in a similar way is Loghain from Dragon Age Origins, who similarly has his motivations shown throughout the game, though primarily in cutscenes and such. But yeah, discrete mathematics is very fun both for the N-ray scanner and getting to play around with it in a dungeon designed specifically around it, but also because of the story itself, especially if you take the time to speak to Victor. This is technically only a part of the larger main quest, On the Trail of the Traitor, but it gets its own quest entry in the journal, so I'm choosing to count it as a separate quest, especially because it feels so different in its design from the rest of the quest line on Dorado. For my third favorite, it's actually a side quest, and it's the one that stands out the most to me as unique and super memorable. Escape from Placid Waters, where you're asked by a man's daughter who escaped the Protectorate to free her father Waylon from the Placid Waters Wellnitarium, where Protectorate citizens who are not obedient enough are sent to be subjected to mental refreshment. By this point, when you get the quest, you'll have likely heard a lot about mental refreshment, so you're likely going to be curious to find out what it is exactly. While you can of course just assault the facility and break Waylon out after killing anyone who's hostile, you can instead infiltrate the place by pretending to be a Protectorate subject who is willingly submitting themselves for mental refreshment due to having doubts or too many questions or anything that would make you less than perfect. As you enter the Wellnitarium, you get dosed with some of the drugs that they give to the patients there, and it's such a fun start to the quest, such a memorable entrance. I honestly wish that the effects of whatever your character gets dosed with would persist, and give you some extra dialogue options that would allow you to roleplay as if your character got hit hard by those substances and was genuinely struggling to remember why they entered the facility to begin with, or maybe just struggling to speak normally to people. But either way, you learn a lot about mental refreshment, including the fact that most of the staff in the facility are also actually people who have been through the process of refreshment themselves. And only the lead doctor is an exception to that, though he does microdose on the treatment just so that he can be in the same room with patients and not be too affected by the medication. I also appreciated that there was a way to convince him if you had some good enough skills. I didn't in my first playthrough, but in another playthrough I convinced him to defect and join another faction, which was a cool option for a non-violent resolution. Although, maybe it is better to kill him since he's pretty evil. And there's also a shocking moment if you explore the facility deeply enough. The Sovereign, the leader of the Protectorate, has been forced to undergo a very strong mental refreshment and is basically catatonic. And the one who ordered this treatment is the Consul, who has since taken over the Protectorate as its leader. It's a great moment to find out that even the leader, who you might have thought was an evil dictator, was in fact just another cog in the machine, easily replaced by someone who was smarter than him and who knew how to manipulate things for everything to be technically completely logical and lawful within the Protectorate. Even the Sovereign's bodyguard doesn't seem to think there was anything wrong done to his charge, and just sits with him, hoping he'll somehow get better soon. You really get to see the brainwashing that goes on in the Protectorate, not just a chemical kind with mental refreshment, but the propaganda that its subjects internalize and follow mostly without questioning. So it's an absolutely fascinating quest in terms of the lore and world building for the Protectorate. But then it's also so much fun to go through it when you infiltrate the facility as a patient. I loved bringing Tristan along, since he gets to see this ugly part of the Protectorate that he didn't really understand before, and even gets to see his Sovereign reduced to a vegetable just due to the ambition of the Consul. All things that contradict the beautiful lie Tristan was told, and which he continued to tell himself. I think it adds a lot to his character arc to bring him along on this quest, combined with his personal quests, of course. I'll have to talk about the companion quests soon too, because those are also very interesting. But these have been my top 3 quests from The Outer Worlds 2. I could talk basically all day about most of the quests in this game. They're really just that well thought out and executed. But these ones just stuck with me especially, so I felt like they deserved their own video. So yeah, I think you can expect a lot more discussion videos about Toad 2 in the future, because I greatly enjoy highlighting the best parts of my favorite games to share them with you all. I'm very curious to hear what your favorite quest or quests were, so do let me know down below. If you enjoyed this, stick around for future guides and discussion videos I plan to make about The Outer Worlds 2 and other games I care about. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, or maybe become a channel member. Everything helps. This has been B Tier Mutineer. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.